All right. Well, before we get into our discussion, I want to take a moment just to set the stage. So, in the time that I've been in telecoms, or the times shortly before that, we've seen a lot of change in terms of technology, and I'm sure that was the case in the decades before I was involved as well. But in the period I've experienced, we've gone from having a pure TDM network to adding soft switches, this exciting new voice over IP technology. And when that happened, we started to get these mixed VoIP and TDM networks. Perhaps with VoIP as some new cool services, but mostly still TDM. And that process has continued. Basically over the last decade and a half. And today, I think a lot of us are in step 3 here in this evolution, where actually, we've mostly embraced VoIP for access, and while there might be kind of wired lines in people's homes, we have Calix or Adtran gear converting the traffic into VoIP for the connection to the switch. So the access side's looking pretty good, but the network interconnect side, the PSTN, is a bit more of a mixed bag. We certainly, a lot of people do have SIP trunks for long distance would be a common thing, but also a lot of people still require SS7 links to connect to their local tandem, and there's some limitations there in what AT&T and CenturyLink and those other folks are willing to provide for smaller ILECs and CLECs. So that's kind of where we've progressed in that direction, that axis of evolution. And then on a different path, we also have virtualization going on, where again, 15, 20 years ago, everyone was buying equipment that was from a specific vendor, and the hardware was a key part of that equipment. You were buying a black box basically from that vendor. But over the last probably 5, maybe as little as 5 years, certainly 5 to 10 years, we've seen this trend towards virtualization, where the hardware has become less and less important. In part, that's because we've needed less TDM, which obviously requires fairly custom equipment. But as we move towards voice over IP, the software is really all that matters. And so, we have, voice applications running on just any kind of server. The hardware becomes a commodity. And of course, virtualization means that there's actually no real link between the hardware and the software. The voice applications are just, running on some processing resources, some memory resources that are provided by the virtual environment. And so we're seeing that trend as well. And all of these trends in these 2 different directions are having an impact on us as service providers, or you as service providers. And that's what we want to talk about today, is the impact it's having and the future impact that we see over the coming decade, pretty much.